The Oklahoma City Thunder fall on national television to the Miami Heat as the Heat shoot an NBA record 40 free throws, and they make all 40. We'll talk about the lessons this young Thunder team needs to learn after this tough loss to the Miami Heat on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, media member, and editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, lothunderpod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to go ahead and dive into the Oklahoma City Thunder falling on national television to the Miami Heat. Josh Giddey gets a triple-double on national TV. The Miami Heat shoot 40 free throws and make them all. We'll talk about how this team lost, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what to learn from this game. But we start, the way we always do, with our game overview. Chet Holmgren out, of course, for this season. Ousmane Dieng, Poku, both out long-term. And an update from Joe Mazzato of the Oklahoman, who is on this road trip, from Mark, that Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is still out and is still not yet day-to-day. It's still a longer term than day-to-day. So that's really discouraging for that ankle sprain from Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. Jay Will and Baisley, both DNP CD, but they're healthy. They just did not play in this game. For the Heat, they were without Bam, without Hero, without Lowry, without Duncan Robinson. This was a very gettable game without Caleb Martin as well for Miami. The Thunder had an interesting starting lineup: SGA, Giddey, Dort, J-Dub, and Marui. I'll admit, as somebody who has been saying that Mark is the best Thunder head coach ever since his first season, this was one decision where I thought it was a little gimmicky, but that's been his MO his entire career, is to switch things up, throw new looks at people, throw different lineups at just the second time that Omarui has started this season. And then in this game, it course corrected to the 5 players that played the most minutes was the starting lineup that has had the success the last few games. It was SGA, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, J-Dub, and Kenny Hustle. I just wish that the Thunder would have kind of gone out that way, to start and through that first punch, but minutes-wise, it did result in the same. This was a tough loss, though. I will say, before we get into any of this, let's preface this with saying it felt good to have feelings again about Thunder basketball, to really live and die with possession-by-possession basketball, to feel that gut punch whenever the Heat went up on that and one by Jimmy Butler. Like, to have basketball feelings again felt really, really cool. And the TNT music with the Thunder game happening just really sent you back into the glory years. But this game was lost by 1 point, so it was tough to swallow. 10 lead changes, 6-time tied. OKC only had a 5-point lead. Miami's biggest lead was once 11. The Thunder won the rebounding battle 55-47. However, here's the big kicker. The Thunder were only a +1 in turnovers. The Thunder themselves had 18 turnovers. Very uncharacteristic. That's usually where the Thunder make their money. They turn you over, they get out and run. They have the 3rd highest pace in the NBA, which is their identity, which is what they've been preaching. Since Mark took over, Sam Presti shifted the idea of team building to playmakers at every position. We grab and go off the boards. We go turn you over. We're athletic, but we're also skilled. And, now in this 3rd season, you're seeing that translate to, turning over your opponents at a high clip, getting out in transition and running, playing with pace, 3rd most in the NBA. But the Thunder also, as the game went on, played more to their identity than they did in the first quarter because they had better ball movement later on, better cutting action, and they end up in a +10 on the assist column with 27 assists. Miami, 40 for 40 at the free throw line. First of all, it's impressive to get 40 free throws. It's also impressive to make all 40 of them. Jimmy Butler made 23 of the 40, and of course went 23 for 23. But despite Miami having the first quarter of glory in the paint, they had 20 first quarter paint points. They lost overall 60-42 in the paint down low against OKC. But the Miami zone gave SGA and this team fits. I mean, the physicality of it and the rotations were crisp. And the Thunder just had a high turnover clip. Like SGA, who's a low turnover guy, maybe 2, 3 a game, had in the last 2 games against Miami, had 11, had 6 in this game alone. In these 2 games this year against Miami. And Miami also threw the first punch, which I thought the Thunder came out tight, and I thought that Miami throwing that first punch was critical. I was saying in the preview that, if the Thunder can deliver that first punch, then maybe with all the injuries, you see Miami fold a bit, or you see Jimmy Butler kind of get pulled out of the game a little bit, kind of rest him along with their other stars that are already out. But Miami did a great job of punching the Thunder in this game and staying in it all game long, always having answers for the Thunder runs, and vice versa. This was a very competitive game all the way around. But the Thunder saw SGA start 0 for 3 and missed the front end of his first free throw trip. Like, that was just a very uncharacteristic start from SGA, and the Thunder have seen SGA struggle against Memphis, who's a very long, lengthy team that can pack the paint, and then struggle against his zone. That's been the 2 ways that the Thunder have seen their superstar struggle. But in this game, the refs are going to be a talking point for the majority of Thunder fans, and any time that you see your opposition put up 40 free throw attempts, that's going to be hard to swallow. The Thunder, though, also made bad mistakes. I mean, the Eugenio Marui, just lazy, clear path foul. Like, there's no need to do that, and that sparked an 11-2 Miami run. Getting out-physicaled in this game was a big deal. The Thunder were dug themselves in a hole early where they were a +6 in the third quarter, and it was still a 1-point disadvantage heading into the fourth quarter, and then they just tied the fourth quarter and lost by 1 point. That 11-2 stretch was critical. And then you have a moment to, you have chances to win this game down the stretch. I mean, those last 2 possessions, Kenny Hustle misses 2 free throws. Wiggins gets the rebound off of those misses. The second miss, Wiggins gets the rebound. He spins in the lane, loses the ball. OKC doesn't call a timeout as they see him start to spin and start to lose the ball to save that possession with the shot clock turned off. So if you call that timeout and retain the possession with a clean inbound, Miami has to foul you again, and hopefully you actually make your free throws this time. And so that didn't end up working to your favor. And then Miami goes down there, gets the and one with Jimmy Butler to put him up 12-11 with the and one where they get J-Dub in the air with a pump fake and hits the shot, hits the free throw. The very, very, very last possession for OKC, SGA crosses the timeline with 8 seconds left. You have that aforementioned timeout left, and 8 seconds whenever you want to start your action anyway. And the Thunder don't take a timeout, despite Mark being one of the best ATO head coaches in the NBA, voted so by the media on the NBA midseason media survey, receiving votes for that action. Plus, Synergy is grading him at a very high clip in the ATOs also. But that is more personal preference, right? Me personally, knowing that you have Josh Giddey, an elite inbounder, knowing that you have great skill sets in the ATOs, and you even saw SGA hit an ATO timeout, after timeout game winner against Portland, knowing all of that, I personally would have used the last timeout. But personal preference, it's normal there for coaches to say, look, the shot clock's turned off already. They've already worked the ball up the timeline. Let the star cook. Just figure out what to do. He's our superstar. We're going to live and die with our superstar. So trusting SGA is normal there, and I feel like it's a lot of playing the results because he tried a 3 instead of driving and missed. And when I say playing the results, think about how many different ways that could go. Number one, the shot goes in. No one cares. Okay? Nobody cares. Shot goes in. Thunder likely win. There would still been 3 seconds left for Miami to advance the ball and then try to take the lead again. But still, say the shot goes in. That's great. We all celebrate. Say they call the timeout like I would have done. They call the timeout. Giddey, there's no more timeouts now, so Giddey's the inbounder. They blow up the first action. Giddey has to get the ball into somebody, gets the ball into Kenny Hustle, and he's the guy that shoots the last shot instead of SGA. Well, then you're complaining that why isn't the ball in your best player's hands? Okay, let's say that SGA then brings the ball to the timeline and then passes to somebody else and they miss. Or, well, then why isn't your star player deferring? Why isn't he being the guy to take the main stage? So, we're playing the results on this a lot when it all comes down to making or missing. With SGA taking that 3, personally, the only thing I had a problem with Shai's shot selection there was you could have gotten to that step back 3 anytime. You could have gotten that at any moment. You did not have to launch a step back 3 with over 4 seconds left on the game clock, because even if you hit it, now you still got to go play defense. If you're going to take the step back 3, make sure that it's in the air as time expires, and you're either going to win or lose. Because even as you kind of contest for the rebound, they don't call a jump ball until 0.8 seconds left, and at that point, you can't do anything with 0.8 seconds left. So, Had the shot gone in, though, the clock obviously stops. They advance the ball, then they still have the full 3, 2, however many seconds would have been left on that miss. The ball hit the cylinder around the 3.7 mark, which is going to be when it would have gone in. And so it goes in at like 3.8, or I should say 3.5 or 4 or whatever. That's a lot of time for the Heat to answer, either by sending it to OT or by winning it on a 3. So I just would have liked him if he's going to settle for that step back 3, something that he's worked on and tried to add to his bag for the last 2 seasons. That's fine, but time and place for it would have been a big deal for me. But the Thunder are going to want this one back. Like, there's no doubt about that. If the Thunder's goal is to make the play-in, they're going to want this one back. You had a depleted Heat team. You're on national television. You fought all game long, tooth and nail. You overcame everything. Like, you had it. Shot clock turned off. Kenny hustle at the line. You make your free throws. You win the game. You keep that rebound from Wiggins and you win the game. You have SGA become a clutch time scorer as he has been all season long. You win the game. Like, you had your chances despite being the youngest team in the NBA, despite missing any sort of rim protection and big man in this game, despite giving up 40 free throws in this game, but despite uncharacteristic turnovers to the tune of 18 turnovers, despite all of that, you were in this game and you really leave it thinking you should have won on the road. And so this is a game that you're going to want back. And you tip your cap to Jimmy Butler. He was crafty in the line 23 times. A few of them, sure, were ticky-tack, not really great free throws, but some of them were just him getting J-Dub in the air a couple times and being physical, going to the rack, and that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But all in all, a good showing for OKC considering the circumstances, but they've just got a lot to learn, and we knew that coming into the year. We still know that now after watching them play. We also know that you need to go right now to PrizePicks.com or the PrizePicks app. Use the code LOCKEDON, 100% deposit match guarantee up to $100 over there at Locked On. Promo code at PrizePicks.com and PrizePicks app. Folks, PrizePicks is awesome. It is a simple way for you to play and have fun. It's just you versus the projected numbers, not versus any other opponent. You pick 2 to 6 players. You say, hey, will SGA score more or less points than 25.5 against the Sixers? If you say more and he does, you've won. If you say less and he does, you've won, and vice versa. So you can pick, say, SGA more or less 25.5 points. You can say in that same game, Embiid more or less 10.5 rebounds. Well, the Thunder don't have a lot of bodies in the paint. Let's say he gets over 10 in rebounds in this game. And so if you get those 2 right, boom, you win, and you can win up to 25 times your entry. No competing against others. It's just you versus projected numbers. PrizePicks offers incredible projections on all the sports that you watch, including NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men and women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Eurobasket, cricket, and more. Entries only take 60 seconds or less. Try it today. Safe and offers fast withdrawals. Download right now the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up. That's PrizePicks.com or PrizePicks app. Use the code LOCKEDON for 100% instant deposit match guarantee up to $100. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. So, Josh Giddey posts a triple-double on national television. That was fun to see. 18 points, 10 of them came in that fourth quarter, including an epic shot to tie it. The only thing I disagree with Josh Giddey's game, I thought it was pretty good considering the Heat zone is going to obviously turn you over a lot more as any team, but specifically 2 really, really young guards and the second youngest team in the NBA. So the turnovers are high. Yeah, push that aside for now. I thought all game he was passing up threes that he normally took, especially at home, especially during this last month where he's particularly shooting very well and playing very well. I thought that there was moments where he hesitated and didn't shoot shots that I think over the last 2 weeks he would have just no-brainer pulled the trigger on. And that could have been national television. That could have been the Heat zone. That could have been a myriad of things. But the 1 3 that he did take was the most ill-advised of all the ones he had. Like, of all the ones he could have shot, all the ones that he did shoot, that was the most ill-advised of the 3 that he took in the fourth quarter. And that was uncharacteristic of Giddey, and I think that was more so a heat check than I think that this is the right basketball play. But still, he played really good. Got a triple-double, 18 points, 10 assists, 15 rebounds. 15 rebounds as a guard. A team high. It was a game high. He's the only player in this contest with double-digit rebounds. He had a block. He shot 44%. And then put on a passing clinic. The no-look pass to cutting Kenny Hustle was awesome. The bounce pass to J-Dub creates a bucket. All in all, he played really well off SGA, and he was just scrapping in this game. He cares about winning. He cares about creating possessions. He cares about fighting. He cares about going to war each and every night, and it's been awesome to watch for Josh Giddey over this last month. Now, SGA, cold start to this one. There's no doubt about that. Uncharacteristic start to this one for SGA as well. And we've seen two things give him trouble: the Memphis, length and the zone of Miami. That's been pretty much it. It's been those two things. 26 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 6 turnovers. He shot 50% from the floor, 2 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 7 at the free throw line. He had timely and 1 buckets, and he even made it a 7-point game going into halftime with an and 1 and a 3-pointer. Still had those step backs in the mid-range, and then was just, again, timely. Like, these and ones happened at the perfect time to either stop Miami runs, extend Thunder runs, get them over the hump at certain instances of the game. It was really good to see from SGA. For Jalen Williams, I thought he played well also. Like 12 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, a block, 55% from the floor, 1 of 2 from 3. He did not look like a rookie for most of this game. There were rookie moments, like the falling for Butler pump fakes is stuff that you learn as you move forward as a defender in the NBA. But the lob play where he goes up and gets it, realizes he cannot finish it, so he hangs in the air, has the body control to stop there, have the hand strength to palm it, and fling it over to Dort in the corner for 3. Like, that is special acrobatic, just athleticism that J-Dub has, and that was something that was not highly touted of his in the scouting report coming into this summer and at the NBA draft. It was awesome to see him play in this game, and you're just left saying shoot more, shoot more, shoot more. Well, then who do you want to shoot less? And that answer is clearly Lu Dort. This was an awful Lu Dort game. Awful. 6 fouls in this one. He had 2 assists to 2 turnovers, 8 rebounds. He shot 4 of 13 shooting, 1 of 6 from 3, out of control drives. He was trying to do way too much out there. Ill-advised shots, dooming possessions after dooming possessions. And I get it. You look around and say, well, he's the only one that wants to do this. He's the only one that will go out of his comfort zone and do it. Okay. Force someone else to do it. This is not the role designed for Lu Dort when this team wants to be a competitive and good team. This is not how he's going to play. This is not how the Thunder are going to play. So why don't you prepare him for that this season and force J-Dub to be more aggressive and take more shots? Force anyone to take more shots. We know it's something he cannot do. He might be built to do it. As I said yesterday on Monday's podcast, he might be built to do it. He might have the frame that looks like he should be able to finish through contact. He might have the shooting stroke on some nights and be a very streaky shooter. He can't do it night in and night out. He cannot be an offensive force. He cannot be an offensive initiator. He cannot be somebody that goes and creates his own shot night in and night out. He, for his entire career, shot poorly at the rim. That's continued. And in tonight's game, he really cost you. There was a moment where SGA has an and 1 in the second half. That gets it within 6. Defensive stop, which goes to Lu Dort. And then Lu Dort is just lazy. It's just a lazy pass up the court that Butler tips, gets the ball back from Miami at free points whenever it could have been, reduced from a 6-point game down to a 4-point game, down to a 3-point game, whatever would have happened on that offensive possession. But you didn't even give the Thunder a chance because it was just a lazy get-me-over pass to SGA. For a guy who wants the ball in his hands so much, that's an instance where, okay, get the ball across the timeline. And then let's figure things out. Don't force it and just throw it away willy-nilly, right? Like, there were just so many instances of ill-advised shots, so many instances of ill-advised decision-making, and those are things that Lu Dort has repeatedly done that they need to be eliminated from his arsenal. And look, Lu Dort is a streaky player, and this is going to happen for the rest of his career, and you live with it because he's an elite defender. That's why you live with it. But he will turn around in the next game or 2 or 3, and sometime this week, he'll shoot 4 for 6 from 3, and he'll have a strong body drive and finish, and then people are going to go back to crowning Lu Dort, and that's going to be fine because he's going to be awesome. He's going to be a streaky player, but I just think that this is not fair to him. It's not fair to him to continue to put him in these spots that he's not built for. Like, this is not his style of play. Like, that's all it is. It's not his style of play. It's not what the Thunder want him to do long term. And so all you're doing right now is letting him take a beating. It's letting him get crucified on Twitter, letting him take the punches for these ill-advised opportunities for no end result. Whereas let's say it's J-Dub. Let's say you give the ball to J-Dub more, you force him to shoot more, and the efficiency drops down, and there are plays like these that are ill-advised, and turnovers happen, and J-Dub has almost the same results as Lu Dort. Okay, but at least that is for a greater goal. Like that is for, hey, we want to get this guy ready to be more of an aggressive scorer on the offensive wing whenever Chet's back, whenever this team is fully healthy, when this team wants to play and win games. The ideal goal for Lu Dort is none of that. The ideal goal for Lu Dort is shoot in the corner where you've been excellent your entire career, shoot in the corner, play elite defense, and then for a very finite amount of time in a basketball game, then you maybe can be on ball for a second, or you maybe can cut back door and finish. But in general, it's sit in the corner, get back on defense, play lead defense on the opposition. So it's unfair to him to continue to force him to be in that role just because, well, he's the only one that wants to do it. Okay, make the others do it. Like, make them rise their level of play and take this pressure off of Lu Dort, because this is going to happen more often than not. And again, he's a streaky player, so feel free to clip this part of it out too on Thursday whenever he goes 4 for 6 from 3. He's really good. Lu Dort's a good basketball player. Lu Dort deserves to be on this team long-term and any contending NBA team long-term because he has an elite skill set in the half-court game in the playoffs where he can go and he can lock down your guy. He's also shown he can be an elite corner shooter. Those are two things he's elite at, which you should be able to fit your game and your style around him. But having him in this role is going to get him more of these heated Twitter moments than anything else. And it's for no end result. Because this is not at all ever going to be who Lu Dort is. And he's been working on this part of his game. And it's improved. Like, it's not as bad as it was last year, the decision-making at the rim. That he said at media day that he got better at it, and he truly has gotten better at his pure decision-making going to the rim. But he still has out-of-control drives. He's still not going to be elite at it, and he still can't finish. And so I just think it's best for everyone if you just stop having him take double-digit shot attempts per game. In the sense of like 13, 14, 15 shot attempts a game. Or it just seems like he takes these shot attempts that aren't in the flow of the offense. That he just kind of cooks more than taking them whenever the defense is giving them. I love Lu Dort. And I think that Lu Dort is a starter long-term even on this team. If you care about starters, he's for sure a closer. Like, you're going to have to close with Lu Dort in the playoffs. Because you are not going to find somebody who can do what Lu Dort does in the half-court defense in the playoffs when the game slows down and it's mano-a-mano. You cannot find somebody that does what Lu Dort does. So he's going to have to close for you. Don't care about starting. Don't care about the PA announcer and the jump ball. He's going to have to close for you. But this is not how he looks when he closes. And so maybe it's going to take until that moment to truly understand his value. But I understand how frustrating it is to watch Lu Dort do this game after game whenever it's off. But I have to believe that he will raise his value whenever this team is fully fleshed down. I've been telling you that for 2 years, and I know it has not done any. Like, I know it's not came to fruition yet. I've been saying this over and over and over again until I'm blue in the face, but I have to believe that this will get fixed. It's just frustrating for the time being. Coming up, we'll talk Kenny Hustle's good game that should not be overshadowed by a botched end-of-game scenario. Plus, Isaiah Joe, Lindy Waters, and Aaron Wiggins all played well as well. We'll talk all about that coming up. But first, I want to say right now, but friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline is incredible, folks. It is where you want to be. It is the number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds, trends, in every professional and amateur league out there, from pro and college football to pro and college basketball. World Baseball Classic even coming up in the near distant future. And it's the NFL playoffs. It's the NBA season. A lot of fun stuff to be betting on right now. Speaking of the NFL playoffs, the Dallas Cowboys, who I'm sure a lot of you are a fan of, -2.5 on the road. So road favorites in Tampa against Tom Brady on Monday Night Football. Check that out as well over there at BetOnline. BetOnline is where the game starts. Thank you so much for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning. Every single day, we're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms. This was a really good game from Kenny Hustle, and I hate that it ended that way, because this is going to be a lot like that Poku opening night game, where like the opening night game for Poku, he played really, really well, but he had the botched weird finger roll thing that just threw everything for a loop and kind of lost you the game, so to say, at the end. For Kenny Hustle, 6 of 8 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3, 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal, 0 turnovers, 13 points, great cuts, good mid-range jumpers to bust the zone, played really good defense. Like, Kenny Hustle did a ton of things really well. Did 99.999% of things excellent. But the last 23 seconds, he missed 2 free throws. That could have iced the game. And that's just the brutal, the brutal nature of sports. Because if those free throws go in, we spend the rest of today talking about how valuable Kenny Hustle is. We spend the rest of the day talking about he's one of the best value deals in sports. We spend the rest of the day talking about how he is the glue guy for the future and how he is this incredible player and how he won you that game down the stretch. If those 2 free throws go in. But those 2 free throws do not change how valuable he was in getting you to that spot, in getting you to that opportunity to win that game. Kenny Hustle was incredible, and it should not be overshadowed by 2 mistakes. Because everyone up and down this roster made 2 or more mistakes in this game. Everyone up and down this roster made more than 2 mistakes. Kenny Hustle was awesome. He just was. I thought Isaiah Joe and Lindy Waters, while they were not spectacular in the sense of the box score, like you look at this box score in the paper, if papers are still printing, and it's not going to jump out at you, but they both at different moments provided spark plugs for the offense. Isaiah Joe drew that charge that was huge. Lindy Waters III had 5 defensive rebounds in 12 minutes, which ended possessions and helped the Thunder get on the right side on the defensive end. Waters also had 9 points. Joe had 6 in the first quarter. When the game felt like it was fading a little bit, Waters came in and hit a couple shots and had 6 points and a rebound. I do want to point out too, while we're talking about Joe and Waters, on Isaiah Joe's 3, Darius Bazley was the first player off the bench to celebrate, and I get it. He was not playing. He's not in a rotation. He hasn't played well this year, besides from the defensive end. It is still good to see Darius Bazley engaged on the bench and to see Darius Bazley trying to support his teammates. Because let's be honest, okay? Our preconceived notions, if I went all the way back to October and I told you how this season has gone for Bazley, now he's fallen out of the rotation. He's not only not starting anymore, he's falling out of the rotation. He's not playing at all. Like, he's barely played in the last month of the season. If I told you all that, based on what you thought about Darius Bazley and some of the actions that he's shown up until that point, you would have believed, oh, then he's going to be a malcontent, like he's not going to support his teammates, he's going to pout. Like, that's what you'd have believed about Bazley. And that's not been the case this year. Like, he's been engaged, he's been supportive of his teammates, he's been locked into games, even though game after the game, he gets a DNP CD. So he does deserve credit on that. Like, it's not an improvement that we like to point out. Like, it's not an improvement from his 3-point percentage, but it is an improvement from Bazley. His attitude just seems a lot better this year, even as adversity hits. Wiggins, I thought, only played 12 minutes. Like, should have played more. I always say that about Wiggins. I'll always say that about Wiggins until he gets like 25 a game. Like, until he gets a consistent 25 a game, I'll always say he should play more. In this game, 6 points, a rebound, 3 for 5 from the floor. That rebound could have been the play of the night. Like, it could have been the play of the night had you held onto the rebound, or the Thunder just called timeout and said possession. But that's brutal. That's another chance. And when you rewatch this game, or at least I will, because I'm a sicko and I rewatch every single game the day after. When you rewatch this game, like, it's going to be painful to see every opportunity the Thunder had, despite all that went against them. The free throws, the 11-2 run, the first quarter, the disastrous second quarter stretch. Like, despite all that went against them, they feel like they could have won the game and should have won the game. But that's what young teams do. And so, whenever I told you in October, and a lot of you got upset at me, that, hey, they're not going to be tanking, but they're going to lose games because this team is too young to close out games. This is an example of that. They didn't tank. They did nothing to tank. They did nothing to make the team worse. They did everything they could to win. They experimented. They tried different players. They tried different lineups. They tried timeouts. They tried to foul. They tried to not foul. They tried to score inside. They tried to score outside. They tried to cut. They tried to stand still. They tried everything they could, and they lost because of silly mistakes. Everything adds up. Going all the way back to the second quarter with the lazy Lou Dort turnover. Going all the way forward to the start of the fourth quarter with the Eugene Marie lazy take foul that sparked an 11-2 run. All these things add up that more experienced teams do not do. More experienced teams give up the fast break. More experienced teams just bring the ball up the timeline and then get the ball to their best player. More experienced teams grab a rebound, understand, hey, I'm about to lose this timeout. Let's just go ahead and call the timeout right now. Let's save this most valuable thing, which is the possession with no shot clock. Like, all these things will add up for them. All these things are going to be lessons that they can take for next game. They can take for next year, more importantly. Like, this is stuff that's going to impact them, not just for the Sixers, but impact them for next season, but impact them for 2 seasons from now in the playoffs, but impact them whatever the case is. Like, this is going to be long-lasting impacts that Mark is going to pound into their heads and allow them to overcome. Up next on Locked On Thunder, Thursday, we're going to have a draft recap podcast, or draft preview podcast with Richard Stamen. We're going to talk about the 2022 draft for a little bit and then preview the 2023 draft. Friday, Sixers recap, Saturday, Bulls recap, and then Monday, Nets recap. We're here for you Monday through Friday and after every single Thunder game. So subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.